Imagine living in a time when the world is balanced on the edge of destruction. It's the Cold War. America and the Soviet Union don't trust each other, don't talk openly, and are fully prepared to destroy the planet if things go wrong. Nuclear weapons are ready, tensions are high, and information has become more powerful than armies. In that world, Berlin was not just a city, it was the most important listening post on Earth. After World War II, Germany was split into two parts. West Germany was controlled by the United States, Britain, and France, while East Germany was under the Soviet Union. Berlin, although located deep inside East Germany, was also divided the same way. This strange division turned Berlin into the front line of the Cold War. In the 1950s, there was no internet, no satellites, no mobile phones. All long-distance communication depended on underground telephone cables. And almost every major phone call made between Moscow and the rest of the Eastern Bloc passed through Berlin. That is why Berlin was quietly known as the world's biggest telephone junction. The CIA and Britain's MI6 understood something very clearly. If they could listen to those calls, they would know everything the Soviet Union was planning: military movements, political decisions, even fears and weaknesses. But there was a huge problem. Those cables were buried in East Berlin, which was enemy territory. Sending spies there meant risking capture, and capture could mean war. Still, they decided to take the risk. Their plan was almost unbelievable. They would dig a secret tunnel from West Berlin into East Berlin, directly beneath Soviet-controlled land, and tap the underground cables from below. The CIA called this plan Operation Gold. MI6 called it Operation Stopwatch. In 1954, in a quiet area of West Berlin called Rudau, a warehouse was built under the name of an airport construction facility. It looked ordinary, boring, and harmless. But underneath that warehouse, a tunnel slowly began to take shape. It was about 450 meters long, wide enough for people to walk through comfortably, and tall enough to stand upright. The tunnel was soundproofed, air-conditioned, and engineered so carefully that even Soviet soldiers walking above it would hear nothing. While armed guards patrolled the streets above, CIA and MI6 officers worked underground, inch by inch, listening to the heart of the Soviet system. At the end of the tunnel, they built a recording chamber filled with hundreds of tape machines. Over the next 11 months, more than 450,000 Soviet phone calls were recorded. Military orders, logistics, troop movements, and strategic conversations were quietly captured. The Western intelligence agencies believed they had achieved the impossible. They thought they were winning the Cold War without firing a single shot, but they had no idea that the Soviet Union already knew everything. This is where the story takes a darker turn. A man named George Blake was a senior officer in Britain's MI6. To his colleagues, he was intelligent, reliable, and deeply trusted. What they didn't know was that Blake was secretly working for the KGB. Years earlier, during the Korean War, Blake had been captured and imprisoned in North Korea. During his captivity, he read Karl Marx's Das Kapital and witnessed the destruction caused by Western bombing campaigns. His beliefs slowly changed. By the time he was released, he was convinced that communism was morally superior to capitalism. When he returned to Britain, he passed every security check and was welcomed back into MI6 as a loyal officer. Ironically, Blake was assigned to the technical side of Operation Stopwatch. He attended meetings, reviewed tunnel plans, learned the exact locations of the cables, and understood the full scope of the operation. And every detail he learned was quietly passed on to the KGB. So when the tunnel became operational, the Soviet Union was not surprised. The KGB faced a critical decision. They could expose the tunnel immediately, but doing so would reveal that they had an insider inside MI6. George Blake was too valuable to lose. Instead, they chose a more dangerous and intelligent strategy. They let the tunnel operate. The KGB allowed less important and misleading information to flow through the tapped cables, while sensitive communications were moved to secure lines. The CIA and MI6 believed they were hearing everything. In reality, they were hearing only what the Soviet Union wanted them to hear. It was a perfect game of deception, played silently beneath the streets of Berlin. This continued until April 1956. Heavy rain caused a failure in several Soviet communication lines, including those used by high-ranking generals. Repair crews were sent underground to locate the problem. While digging, they discovered amplifiers, microphones, and tapped cables connected to their system. The tunnel had finally been exposed. CIA and MI6 agents had already escaped. They heard the discovery through their own listening devices and evacuated immediately. When the tunnel was revealed to the public the next day, the world was shocked. Even enemies admitted that the engineering behind the operation was extraordinary. But for the Soviet Union, the lesson was clear. Berlin was not just a divided city. It was a massive security threat. Western intelligence operations were everywhere. Espionage was constant. Information was leaking. Migration was a problem. But intelligence warfare was the real danger. And that realization played a major role in what came next. In 1961, the decision was made to seal the city permanently. The Berlin Wall was built, not just to stop people from leaving, but to stop information from flowing. Operation Gold officially failed, but its impact reshaped history. It revealed how far nations were willing to go for information, how dangerous ideology had become, and how a city could become the center of a global conflict. This was not just a tunnel. It was the underground battlefield of the Cold War. And above it, the Berlin Wall would soon rise, dividing not only a city, but the world itself.